So, hi, welcome back to the Pins to the Wind knitting podcast. This is the fourth episode. This is a podcast about knitting. So, my name's Hannah. I am from and I'm based in the west of Scotland. And it's been a couple of months since I last made one of these because things have been quite busy in the non-knitting parts of my life. But I have been, doing things in the background. So, jazzed to have the time this morning to be able to sit and chat about them. So the first thing I want to talk about is this. This is a Nuuk t-shirt. I made this about 4-ish years ago. I think I made it in one of the first COVID lockdowns. So yeah, like to talk about an older finished object. And then in terms of the newer stuff that I've been working on since last time, I have two finished objects. I have this Oslo hat, which I finished. I also finished this jumper, which I've spoken about a few times, this all over Colourwork FO thing, and yeah, I have a new work in progress, which is this, which I'll talk about a little bit once I get to it. So yeah, I guess the first thing to say maybe before getting into the knitting stuff is that the reason it's been a wee while since I've made one of these is, apart from work and all that, is that garden season is really starting to kick off. So yeah, I have an allotment and it's meant that over the last couple of months I've been planting a lot of seeds, trying to prepare the ground, like hammering wooden stakes into the ground. So then I hurt my arm for a bit and couldn't knit as much. So yeah, it's been a whole thing, but I'm very, very excited that spring is around the corner. And on that note, this is pretty much my only springy knit that I have. Everything else is very much winter based just because I live in Scotland and it's cold here. But yeah, this is the Nuuk tee. It's Nuuk. The name of the designer I cannot remember. I think it's Jonna something. But all of the information about all of the patterns and shades and everything will be in the description box. And also I'll put a link to my Ravelry page because I've been pretty conscientious about updating Ravelry for the past 10-12 years. So yeah, all the finer details will be there. But yeah, this is the Nuuk tee. So I made this, as I say, in one of the first COVID lockdowns. I think it was one of the first projects that I started and finished in lockdown. I think it maybe took like a week or something like that. It didn't take super long. The yarn is Brusca by Retrosaria Rosa Pomar. Beautiful Portuguese wool brand. I had made another jumper in this exact same yarn immediately beforehand and got a little bit obsessed and then knitted almost exclusively in this yarn for a while because it's kind of, I don't know what it is officially, it's kind of a worsted weight yarn. And it's, to me anyway, it seems like a good middle point between, like, it's not as rough as Shetland wool, but also it's like proper sheep's wool. It's not merino. Not that there's anything wrong with merino, but it's like a good balance between soft and rustic, I think. And the stitch definition, so like it doesn't get you can see these little differences there. It doesn't have an extremely uniform stitch definition, which I also liked. So yeah, this was the first time I used this pattern. I followed it pretty much exactly, whereas later on I would knit it like with sleeves and with different ribbing and all that, but this is pretty much as written with the twisted 1x1 rib. I'll stand up so you can see the length because it was the perennial question of how cropped is too cropped, but I think this is just on the right side of it. So it's not high-waisted jeans, it's normal waisted jeans, so it hits quite nicely. So I would say in terms of how this is worn, it looks good as new, but that's potentially because I haven't worn it loads. So I remember during the early parts of COVID, I would wear it, like I was sitting in this room working from home, and it was a really good layering piece. So like I would wear another jumper and then this jumper on top, and yeah, it was really convenient. I do really love the way it looks and the way it sits, but I feel like it's quite difficult to style because yeah, whenever I wear like a t-shirt with longer sleeves underneath, I feel a little bit like I'm in a 90s grungy boy band. I feel like that's kind of the look. And yeah, I never really know when to wear a woolen t-shirt is the thing, because there's no obvious weather in which woolen t-shirt is the way to go. So that's probably why I've worn it less. Although yeah, having said that, like wearing it now, I think especially because yeah, like I'm wearing jewellery and stuff, and I do feel like it looks less 90s boy band right now. So I'll wear it the rest of the day, and actually maybe I should wear it more often because It's really comfy, and I really like how the neckline sits. This is my thing with most patterns. Like, I don't like high necklines, so I like them a little bit more like this. And when I do self-drafted patterns, the only way I really know how to do that is to do drop shoulder and then really have control of the shaping. I don't really get how to how to do the numbers to make it sit like this in a raglan, so this pattern for me was very worth it, because even though it's pretty simple, it would have taken me a lot of brain power to figure out how to have a neckline that sits nice in a raglan style. So yeah, this is the Nuuk. So my phone is doing the thing where it shuts itself down every 5 minutes, so I'll try and make that slightly smoother once I put the files onto my laptop, but anyway, that's why it's slightly jumpy. So yeah, I think I'm going to talk about the first finished object that I finished since last time I filmed, which is this Oslo hat. So yeah, it's the Oslo hat by Petite Knit, one of the super popular patterns where there's thousands and thousands of projects on Ravelry. And I've knit it in the Rosedean Ryelands DK, which is a yarn from Dalmore Croft. They're based somewhere in Scotland, I'm not sure exactly where. I knit it on a 3.5mm needle because I think I originally started it with 4 and I didn't like the fabric at all. Whereas this fabric I thought was nicer, and also I think for Oslo hats in general, they benefit from having a tighter fabric. So last time I filmed, I'd done just a little bit of the brim. Since then I did all of it. I sort of used this as procrastination knitting because it involved less brain power than the Colourwork thing that I was making, which involved quite a lot of brain power. So yeah, I have worn this a lot since I finished it. I finished it a few weeks ago. And I think I made it bigger than, there was a red Oslo hat that I'd made a year or so ago. I made it bigger than that one, which means that it covers my ears and it's much warmer and more practical than that other one. But it means that it kind of sits like this, which is just not totally what I was going for. I think I kind of wanted it to sit more like the kind of commercial knit beanie hats, where it's maybe tighter like that, whereas this one's quite not fluffy, but it sort of it's a bit voluminous, if that's the word. But yeah, I do wear it all the time because it's super warm and really practical, and it covers my ears without me pulling it down. So I've been wearing it to work in the morning a lot. So yeah, it's definitely serving its purpose. Well, one thing about the yarn is that last time I think I mentioned that right when I broke into the first ball of yarn, there was a knot, so where the yarns had been tied together, they'd broken in the manufacturing process. But I've now knit through, so this took 1.5 balls, and my other project that I've started is also in the same yarn but in a different colour. I haven't found any more knots in either of those colours, so I think that really was just bad luck. And actually the finished fabric is really nice. It is still pretty rustic, it's not a soft yarn, but it's soft enough to be on my forehead, so I feel like that's quite a good sign. But other than that, as I say, this was really like a palette cleanser type knit because Oslo hats are super simple. It's a really simple pattern to follow, and because it's you knit kind of stockinette and then fold it up and attach and stuff like that. But until you get to the decreases, it's basically a big tube of stockinette with the occasional bit of tacking things down. So yep, pretty simple, pretty happy with the result, but it's not going to be I don't think it's going to be a long-term favourite because of the fit. I think the other one that I have looks nicer, even though my ears are cold when I wear it. So yeah, that's this, just pretty basic. The less basic thing I was working on was this jumper. So I have spoken about this at least twice previously when I've made podcast episodes. It is a self-drafted, all over Colourwork, Fair Isle type jumper. It's made in Uradale yarn jumper weight, so all of the shades and everything are spoken about in previous episodes. Oh, there's a hair stuck to it, and are I'll put them in the description below as well. All the Uradale yarn is, so they dye on variously coloured fleeces. I think they use natural dyes. It's one at the new Lanark mill, which is a heritage mill in Scotland. I picked up the yarn when I was at Shetland Wool Week. Great experience all round, really, really nice. So I was really excited to work on this, and last time when I filmed, I think when I was filming I hadn't yet cut the steeks. Yeah, I hadn't, because at that point I didn't have the right crochet hook to reinforce the steeks, so I filmed before I cut them, and then I put in a little insert of once it was cut. Excuse me. So I guess the thing to say about cutting the steeks on this was that the first couple went fine. So I had steeks on both of the armholes and also in the neck hole, so cutting the first couple went fine. For the third one, I was just maybe a little bit not cocky, but just like a little bit not paying full attention. And when I finished cutting through, like the long end of the yarn that I'd used to reinforce came away, and it came away with a little bit of red, so I'd obviously cut through a stitch. But I mean, there was like an initial little panic, but actually because it's Shetland wool, it just like held, like nothing happened. It just held its shape when I went in with the crochet hook and reinforced it, so that was all totally fine. I'll maybe try it on in a bit, but I'm gonna turn it inside out just now just to talk about steeking, because yeah. So let me find one. So yeah, this armhole steek, you can see so like I used a different colour to do the reinforcement. That's reinforcement there, and then I just tacked that down. I don't know, I know some people use ribbons and stuff like that to cover the steeks, but I don't think it looks bad at all. So I just tacked it down, but also I thought that if I used a ribbon it would just introduce extra bulk, because it is obviously like there's an extra layer of fabric here, so it's like the extra knit layer, and also because it's colourwork there's like the floats on the back of the steek too, so it is like relatively bulky. And then that's one without anything underneath. So I also, I'm really happy with the ends, but I didn't want to weave in, not the ends, the floats, but I didn't want to weave in loads of ends. So I ended up doing this. I just basically like French braided them. I don't know what you would call that in knitting terms, but that's the hair term anyway. Yeah, I just kind of French braided them. So I did a braid and then I picked up the other ends as I went, which I think worked really well. And actually it does introduce a bit of extra bulk, especially like, because obviously whichever end you start on it's quite thin and then it gets bulkier as you go. So it does introduce a bit of extra bulk, but like I thought it was worth it, and I don't feel it when I'm wearing it. So I thought it was worth it to avoid all the weaving in of ends work. But I also did the same thing. So this is one of the steeks that I tacked down, and you can see here there's like a little knot with some bits sticking out, because this was also a seam, so I did a French braid of ends underneath here, covered it over with the steek edge so you can't see that braid, and then just left that little knot here. So yeah, I don't think that's a super orthodox knitting technique, but I was worried about how it would wear and stuff like that, but actually it's totally fine. Like you don't feel it at all in wearing it. And it meant that I had a really small number of ends to weave in. So like this is a neck, you can see there's another one of those tacked down to avoid weaving in ends, and then where is it? Yeah, there's like the occasional end that I've, like that green one there, that I've woven in separately, but not loads. I think I mentioned in a previous episode that this yarn, it felt a little bit tacky to the touch, and I wasn't sure if it was like lanolin content or spinning oil or what, but it meant that I was a little bit worried about washing and blocking this, because I was worried that the colour was going to run and that all the whites were going to get coloured. So I bought like colour catcher sheets just from Poundland or somewhere really cheap. I bought a bunch of them, and I put them in the water when I was washing it. I just hand washed it. No colour really came off on the colour catcher sheets, so it really held fast, and there's no running, I don't think. Like there's the occasional area where I think you can, almost from a distance it looks like there might be, but actually close up you can see that it's like more where floats have been caught, and you can kind of see you can't really see, but there's the odd wisp of fibre that is actually the different colour, but it's not attached, so it's not actually dyed the white fibre, if that makes sense. So yeah, no colour really came off in the colour catcher sheets, which is a big plus for this yarn in my book. But then like I took the colour catcher sheets out once it had been in the water for a while. Whereas then just when I was like squeezing it out to dry it, like I didn't wring it or anything, but just gentle squeezing to dry it, loads of blue came out. like it was like dripping through my hands, loads of blue. So then I got worried about that, but again, none of it seems to have transferred anywhere, so I don't really know what that was about. But it seems to have worked out. And actually, yeah, because it all came out in my hands, and then I was like rinsing, squeezing, and then I put it on. I like rolled it in a towel to squeeze out the last of the water, and I did it in a towel that I didn't care about because I thought, oh, this is gonna wreck this. But none of it transferred to the towel. Like I washed the towel and it was totally fine. So I don't know, all a bit weird but good result. I think I'm going to try this on now to talk about the fit a little bit. So yeah, this is it on. The spoiler to all the chat I'm about to do is that I really love this and I think I'm going to wear it loads. So I'll tuck in my necklace. Yeah, I'd say this was self-drafted, so I had made a practice jumper before to try and get a sense of the proportions that I wanted. But I know this isn't to everyone's taste, but this is exactly what I was looking for. And it's also, yeah, different to the ones that you could buy in the shops in Shetland, because obviously the standard is to have a neck that is more closely follows your actual neckline. So yeah, this is how it's sitting. I'd say like my practice was also a bit short. This is also, I think, on the right side of that. It's got a reasonable amount of ease. It's not super baggy, but it's also not like form fitting, which is what I was after. The sleeves, so I'm kind of holding that one there. I wondered if they were maybe a little bit too short, but in blocking, they grew about an inch in blocking, which was perfect. So yeah, I'm delighted with this. The fabric as well, it just feels so nice after blocking. It did change quite a lot. It's rustic, but it's fine to wear next to skin, like for the way that my skin reacts to things. I know everyone's different. As I say, I'm really happy with how it sits, happy with all the proportions. I don't really know what else to say. I just really love it. And yeah, I think I'm going to wear this loads. I've worn it like to work and out for lunch and all those kind of things already. In terms of the bulkiness of the steeks, I do think you can see it a bit if you look for it, but I can't feel it, and I don't think anyone else, like this, actually this is definitely the one that has the braid underneath the steek. So like I can see it because I'm looking for it, and you can probably see it if I point it out, but I don't think anybody else would notice. I think it's a little bit subtle. So yeah, in terms of the amount of yarn that's used, it really did not use much at all. Like the totals are on my Ravelry page, but I mean, like I bought 4 balls of red. I used like almost 2, but like just under 2 for the blue, because that's also the cuffs and everything. I used just over 2 balls. Excuse me. So yeah, I have loads left over. I don't have enough to make a whole other one, but I might have enough to make like a tank top in the same size. Although realistically what I think I'm going to do is knit like gifts for people. So I think my mum would like gloves in this pattern. I had already made gloves for myself in a version of this pattern a couple of years ago before doing this, and she's mentioned a couple of times that she really likes them, so I think I might do that. I might also make like a hot water bottle cover, because I think it would be nice for that. I have, yeah, more than enough left over. So yeah, finally after a long time, I mean, so I bought the yarn for this in Shetland at Shetland Wool Week, which is like 6 months ago. I did have a bunch of Christmas knitting to do, which meant I couldn't start it right away, but I was knitting this for maybe 2.5 months, something like that. So it did take a while, but all over Jumper Bait Colourwork, I thought it would take longer, honestly. So yeah, happy with the amount of time it took. And yeah, oh, one detail. So the repeats of the pattern, it's all kind of like, it's a 4-bar repeat, if that makes sense. It just keeps going. When I came to the cuffs, I couldn't decide whether to do an extra repeat or not, but I needed a little bit of extra length. So what I ended up doing was just striping, which kind of matches. This is one of my favorite details. It kind of matches this stripe detail on the shoulder. So I think, yeah, the real nice thing about self-drafted patterns is that you can just, like, you don't have to have it all figured out before you start. You can just do it as you go. So no, really good experience, and I'm hoping to wear this loads. And if I keep making podcast episodes in like the future, in a couple of years, I'll maybe talk about how it's worn, because like so far no pills at all good, but yeah, I've worn it maybe a handful of times out of the house. So that's this. And then the other really good thing about finishing this was that I could finally start something else. I'd been trying to avoid doing that, because like when I made the hat, it definitely took time away from this, and it it was an easier thing to pick up when I was busy with work and stuff like that, so I was gravitating towards that, whereas I really wanted like to wear this, but I just like, if there was something else that I could pick up easily that had already been cast on, I was, as I say, gravitating towards that. But once I finished this, it meant that I could make something else. So I think I mentioned briefly last time that for a while I've been wanting to make the Burgos vest by the shop Retrosaria Rosa Pomar. I don't know if the designer's name is Rosa Pomar or not actually, but anyway, it's the Burgos vest, Burgos. This pattern, you're supposed to knit it on a 4 and a 5mm needle and with thicker yarn. I don't know if it's like DK plus lace or worsted plus lace even, but it's a 4 and a 5mm needle. But I'm using the Rosedean Ryelands yarn that I also use for my hat in a darker colour. So they have 3 colours, light, mid and dark. The hat was light, this is dark. It's all blends of natural colours. And so yeah, I wanted to knit the vest, but I didn't. I wanted to use this yarn even though it's the wrong weight. So I figured I would just size up, and then if I size up and still follow the numbers, it should all be in proportion with itself. But I didn't do a swatch and I didn't do any maths. I just cast it on with a 3.5mm needle. So I was planning to use 3 and 3.5 instead of 4 and 5. So I think looking at the numbers, I should have been like size 2 and I cast on size 4 initially. But after, so you start at the back and then you knit kind of like, you do some stuff to make the shoulder shaping and then you go down, then you knit the front, then you join it, and then the rest is in the round. So I started knitting the size 4 and it just became apparent that it was going to be way too small. Once I'd knit a bit of it, I measured my gauge on that and I was about on Sadie's gauge, was that on normal gauge I was about 15% tighter than, which I knew I was going to be tighter, but 15% was like a lot and it meant that the maths didn't work. And then on row gauge I was about 20% tighter. So yeah, I ended up ripping that out. I did take a little bit of footage before I ripped it out, so I'll maybe put it here if I can remember how to do that because it's been a while. So yeah, but then I didn't, so I frogged it. I didn't want to size up needles because I'd already knit with this yarn when I was starting the hat on a 4mm. I didn't like the fabric as much, so I started again, but I'm now knitting the largest size, but with my much tighter gauge. So I think it's size 7, it's whichever size the pattern goes up to. So yeah, I've started again. This is the back of the neck, essentially. There's a little bit of shaping for the shoulder and like the front panel of the shoulder will come here. And then this is like part of the armhole that's getting done at the moment. So I haven't knit loads. It's the same fabric, it's like almost exactly the same fabric as the hat, which is a fabric that I really like at the moment. And I think it'll be a very wearable finished object for kind of springtime. I mean, I think almost similar to the Nuuk that I was wearing initially, but this one I think will be more suitable for like work and stuff like that, because if I can wear it over, for example, a black top, I think that would be like cozy and I would feel like I'm wearing like more handcrafted creative stuff to work, but yeah, it still would fit in more with the overall vibe of office work. So yeah, at this stage not much to say about this. It was a really enjoyable knit. I know that a lot, because it's back and forward, a lot of purling isn't necessarily everyone's jam, but I don't mind it at all. I think I hold the yarns slightly differently. Like I don't knit continental. Purling doesn't bother me. I don't know if it's to do with that or not, but yeah, purling doesn't really bother me. But yeah, quite enjoying just going back and forwards and not having to think about it too much. And yeah, this is really just an introduction, I guess, and next time hopefully I'll have loads more to hold up. I have started thinking about which buttons I might want to use. When I was in Shetland for Shetland Wheel Week, I bought a load of really nice buttons, so I need to have a proper review of that to pick some out, because I always find that quite motivating if I've decided like the look of the finished thing, like that makes me go faster. So yeah, hoping to get some time to look at this in amongst all the gardening and the working and the like cleaning the house, like all the stuff that can't really stop. So Yep, that's the Burgos vest by Retrosaria Rosa Pomar. And then yeah, the final thing that I want to say is that in terms of future knitting plans, I've really noticed since I started to make these videos that I don't stick to my plans. So there was only a couple of things that I had mentioned, but pretty much none of them really happened. I did describe this jumper before I knit it, and I knit it, but there was another jumper that I wanted to make where I have a swatch and everything, a little Farewell swatch. But I've kind of went off that idea because the colours are super similar to this, and I just feel like doing something different. So I don't know that it's really worth talking about my future knitting plans, because although there's things that I want to knit either at the same time as or after that Burgos fest, realistically now I reckon that, like, yeah, I'll change my mind. That seems to be what happens. So yeah, I'm gonna end it here, but thank you to the people who have subscribed and who are watching this. I don't really have like a public social media presence as such. I'm on Instagram, but yeah, hadn't posted that often until I started making these videos. So somehow people have found them and have watched them, and especially the people who have left comments, I really appreciate that, because it's so nice to hear yeah, what other people think and what other people take from the chat about these knits, because there's so many people sharing their amazing knitting online, and I love listening to all of those, and I'm grateful to be able to be part of the conversation. So thank you for watching, and yeah, hopefully I'll see you next time.